Good morning, everybody. Well, I've arrived at my doctor's appointment about half an hour early. And while I was driving out here through crazy traffic, I was thinking about the mess in Washington. Now, I'm going to preface this with many of you know who I am. You know that Lori and I are premier short sale and specialize in military short sales. And we still do a lot of those. And many of you who might be watching this don't know what CFPB is, the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. It was an agency that was created years ago, well, not that many years ago. It was created by the Dodd-Frank Act, and it got its birth in 2011. I would argue that it has truly experienced or caused some overreach in regulation. There's no doubt about that. But it was created out of the aftermath of what happened in 2007, 8, and 9. And just to kind of back you up a little bit, so after the Great Depression, the Glass-Steagall Act was created, and that was a mechanism created by Congress to rein in the craziness of Wall Street. And then when President Clinton took office, Glass-Steagall went away. So the mechanism to watch over the banking industry disappeared. And from that period all the way up to 2008, the banking industry, banking industry and the investment industry in Wall Street were able to run amok and create all kinds of weird instruments, financial instruments that ultimately to the mess that created that we all experienced in 2006, 7, 8, and 9. So, and Barney Frank and Chris Dodd, they pushed through Dodd-Frank, and out of that spins up the Consumer Financial Protection Agency. And the Consumer Financial Protection Agency, we'll call it CFPB, because that's what it's called, CFPB, began to create regulations to rein in some of the misbehavior of Wall Street, of financial institutions, the real estate industry, credit card industries, auto financing, anything that touched the consumer. And it gave the consumer a place to go to actually lodge a complaint, have documentation to sustain their complaint, and then the agency, CFPB, would investigate those complaints and move forward with investigation and, in some cases, retribution. Now, I'm not going to name the banks that CFPB has taken down over the years. You can look that up, because many of the people that Lori and I work with across the lending spectrum are friends of ours. And there are good people within all of those banking industries, all of those financial industries. There are good people. But there are bad people too. And some of those bad people did bad things. And some of those bad things caused people to suffer financially. And prior to CFPB, there really wasn't any way to counter that. CFPB came along. Arguably, there's an overreach there, and it needs to maybe be throttled back. But the mess that's going on in Washington right now between England and Mulvaney is crazy. And the idea that the CFPB could possibly face its demise, that it could be eliminated, that in its elimination would return the consumer to the status that we had before, which was we had nowhere to go that had any teeth to hold people accountable. It doesn't make any sense to me. Lori and I have worked with the CFPB over the years and used the help that we gained from the CFPB to help members of the military navigate the depressed real estate that they owned when they PCS from one duty station to another. We still communicate and work with realtors all over the United States who are helping military people receive PCS orders to move from one base to another, who have held on to those homes that they bought in 06, 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, and even 12. And those homes are still underwater, and they really can't afford to manage two mortgages. They're concerned about renting that property out to somebody that they don't know, and they're hoping for the best. And often the tenant goes south. Maybe they don't pay the rent, maybe they trash the property. So there's a lot of reasons why those people need to sell those homes, and they're underwater. So we help and coach realtors all over the United States to help navigate that. Well, the lending industry is still difficult to work with. And I'm going to tell you something about voicing an opinion. And then I'll get back to my story. All too often in today's culture, when we disagree with one side or another, we begin to use epithets. We begin to call names. That's not helpful. That is completely not helpful. As much as I have those things rattling around in my brain, if I'm going to go public with a conversation about my opinion of a particular situation, what I'm not going to do is start calling people stupid or idiots or use any other word that might come out. We need to return to a dialogue of sensible debate, not name-calling debate. It doesn't help anybody. You can't win a debate when you're spouting off crazy language and you distance yourself from the topic and subject you're trying to talk about. So back to CFPB. So with this morning, Mick Mulvaney, who the judge said has the authority to be in that chair, the head chair at CFPB, today he gave an order to the CFPB staff to not move forward, not advance on any prosecutorial efforts on complaints that are tethered to absolute that are not tethered to absolute statutory law. So what that means is, in the world of RESPA, the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, there is a lot of interpretive brinksmanship that goes on in the lending industry, in the title industry, maybe even in the real estate industry, credit card industry, auto lending industry. And so the lawyers for all of those industries have to try and interpret what a particular something or other in RESPA might mean. So when there is an interpretive scenario within the law, Mulvaney has said, I don't want you to move forward on any interpretation. That may signal that he is contemplating some kind of action that could be the vanguard to removing the protections that CFPB has given the consumer. And that's concerning. So the reason I wanted to do this short little video this morning, besides the fact that I got here early, was to simply suggest that those of you who don't know what CFPB is, who CFPB is, Google CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Google how many dollars, how many tens of thousands, millions of dollars has CFPB reclaimed from lending institutions, financial institutions, bad actors, sometimes even individuals, and how did that, and you'll be able to read through how that helped the particular consumer or consumer group that might have launched that particular complaint. And then consider, what if those mechanisms that were in place, that are in place, disappeared? How much of those remedies would not have taken place? I will tell you, because I've been doing this for 30 years, Lori and I, very few of them, because let's face it, Washington is a good old boys club, and we've seen that time and time again. We're seeing it play out in the sexual scandals across industries, whether it's the media industry, whether it's the movie industry, and now it's being evidenced in the congressional industry. It's a good old boys club, and if consumers allow themselves to be put in a situation where their ability to file a complaint and get some substantive activity going with that complaint, choose to let it go away, then that could cause a backward momentum of what we've come through. Now, I'm not saying that CFPB is flawless. They certainly are not flawless. And there is an argument to be made that they should not be under the Fed's purview. They should be under oversight of Congress, and that's fine. That's fine. You know, if Congress wants some oversight over CFPB, then you know, let's have that. But to totally unravel what the consumers have been able to take advantage of for the past few years, since 2011, when CFPB got its legs, I think that just makes no sense. So if you're interested in learning more about CFPB, Google it, read up on it. You don't have to spend a year reading Encyclopedia CFPB, but come to understand what it is. And then if you understand the positive sides of CFPB, call your congressman, call your senator, and tell them that you don't want CFPB unraveled. The lending industry has been beat to crap out by CFPB, and so has the title company, and in some senses, the real estate industry as well. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad agency. It means that it needs some adjusting. It's a young industry. It's only been around for 6 years, and it certainly can use some moderation. But to totally destroy it, totally eliminate it, totally put the consumer back in the box of shut up and sit down, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. So I wanted to take a minute. This has been on my mind because I do work with a lot of military people, a lot of realtors who work with military people across the United States. I use the CFPB tools to help our military family navigate liquidation of their distressed properties, and even navigate some of our clients. And I just got an email yesterday who closed on properties on short sales years ago, and certain things were supposed to take place per CFPB rules. And I got an email yesterday from one of our pilot friends who said, hey, this particular thing was supposed to be a different way, and he's right, and it's not. My tools are to be able to swing a CFPB hammer at that lender, at that investor, and force them to correct the error. I've done that successfully for years. And as more and more time passes from the short sales that have closed, we're going to see more and more of these kinds of things erupt. And if I lose, if the real estate industry loses the tools that CFPB has given us to protect members of the military, because some bureaucrat in Washington wants to trash the agency, that's not helpful to my military family, your military family. My wife and myself worked really hard during the crash to protect members of the military from being disenfranchised and being taken advantage of by the lending industry. We successfully worked with one of the major banks and with members of CFPB to get extra rules put in place that protect the military member, that protects their security clearance. Prior to us getting involved with that situation, there was a big concern about whether or not these types of transactions could compromise members of the military's security clearance. As a result of our interaction with members of Congress, members of CFPB, and some of the major players at some of the major banks, and a good friend of mine who might be listening to this worked for one of those banks at the time. She helped me and Lori advance a policy within that bank that protected the military as we went through these transactions. And Kathy Rintleman, you know who I'm talking about. You're there. I hope you are. I want to tell you thank you. You know that we think the world of you, and you and your team were pivotal in helping us get policies put in place out of CFPB through Mrs. Petraeus, who is the director of military affairs at Veterans Affairs at CFPB, and she went to the DOJ, got some changes implemented, went to your industry and got changes implemented. And if not for your and my collaboration, those things might not ever have taken place. And we had the backing from CFPB to get those done. That's the kind of power that CFPB has for our military family. So folks, if you have even a small smidgen of concern about what CFPB means, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and if you don't want to see that government watchdog dismantled, contact your congressperson, your senator, your congressman, your congresswoman, and let them know CFPB cannot be dismantled. It can be improved. There's no doubt about that. It can be enhanced. There's no doubt about that. Is there some overreach? Absolutely. But you know what? When the wheels came off the cart in 2008, 7, 8, and 9, that was the result of the pendulum swinging way to the left. And it swung way out into outer space. Bad things happened because we all experienced it. And then comes along Dodd-Frank and CFPB, and now the pendulum has swung way to the right. And I get that. That's not right either. But there's a center point. There's a center point that can be reached. There's a logic that can be reached. And what we don't want to do is let the fox back into the hen house to start messing with the forward momentum that has been created by CFPB. So again, please take a moment, Google CFPB, read a little bit about it, understand the good that they have done, understand the things and overreach that they have also done, understand that, but to throw out the baby with the bathwater has never made any sense to me, ever. So that's my 2 cents. I got here a little early for my doctor appointment, and I was really chewing on this all the way out here. It's been bothering me since this flap erupted in Washington. And I actually sent an email to 3 good friends of mine at CFPB this morning, and the subject line, now what? English versus Mulvaney. So I'm waiting for an answer. I got that sent off this morning. Please take a moment, look up CFPB if you don't know what it is. You know, most of America doesn't know what it is. They don't know what they've got, but it's certainly been a great consumer tool in the credit card world, in the credit reporting world, in the real estate lending world, in so many facets of our economic environment, and it's really something that we really can't do without. It can be fixed, it can be corrected, but it in my opinion, it really shouldn't be trashed. So that was me. I just wanted to vent a little bit and hopefully give you a little bit of insight, and hopefully encourage you to check it out. Call your congressman, call your senator, and let's see if we can't keep CFPB from being trashed. I got to go into my doctor appointment. Bye.